All right, I'll call to order the April meeting for the New Ulm Public Utility Commission. Our first order of business is to discuss the consent agenda. Is there anything that you'd like to point out, Chris?
No, not at this time.
No? So I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion to receive the agenda report, the consent agenda report.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. So our second order of business is to recognize our Employee of the Month.
Yes, the Employee of the Month is Derek Nelson. He's the Employee of the Month for March. Derek originally came to the utility through the Water Department, and when the position opened up for Energy Services Representative, he joined the Administration Department. Derek is our first-line customer service with our large customers and meets with many other customers that have billing issues or through our rebate program. Has a very patient personality and is willing to help our customers. He also does significant work on our newsletter that's visible to all customers with articles and tips and information. He's also our point man for anything that has to do with solar. He works with customers that are interested in installing solar and guides them through the process. He's a valuable and trusted employee, and the utility is lucky to have him. So congratulations, Derek.
Thank you, Derek. And a regular contributor to this meeting.
He is.
So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to recognize Derek Nelson as Employee of the Month for March 2023.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to recognize Derek Nelson as Employee of the Month for March 2023. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So our next order of business is to talk about a new stormwater utility fee establishment. And it looks like Joe's going to be our discussant.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and Commission members. Joe Stadham, City Engineer for the City of New Ulm. I'm here today to just share an update of what city staff is working on as far as establishing a stormwater utility and associated fee and program kind of that would fund our storm sewer improvements and program. So currently, the City of New Ulm funds improvements to the stormwater collection system, which consists of 55.2 miles of storm sewer pipe, 3,501 catch basins, 1,283 manholes, mains that are sized from 12-inch to 84-inch in size, the Minnesota River levee, 29 ponds, 41 outfalls. So we fund those improvements to the collection system with city bond and or tax funds. The City Council has previously authorized city staff to pursue the development of a separate stormwater utility fee with its own revenue structure in which we can maintain our utility infrastructure. Additional components that would be funded with this proposed fee would include the establishment of a new position within the city, which would be our stormwater quality specialist. And that position would then kind of take over our MS4 permit, which is our municipal separate storm sewer permit with the MPCA. Currently, for our MS4 permit compliance, we spread those duties among many different staff people. And with the new requirements that the MPCA is requiring of us in our MS4 permit, we are kind of at the breaking point of being able to keep up with those requirements in the current fashion between our other staff duties that we have to take care of. So originally this item was discussed with the City Council in February of 2021 at a work session, explained the need and why staff wanted to move forward with this. After that work session, there was a consensus that council was okay with us proceeding. So we then included that within our 2022 budget, which was approved and adopted by the City Council in December of 2021. Then mid-2022 in July, we contracted with Bolton and Mink to assist with the implementation of this program. And then we've been working with them since October on this program. Numerous cities our size that are MS4 cities have a stormwater utility for pretty much the same purpose. Many of them fund improvements to their systems and their staff time with a fee of this nature. So with Bolton and Mink, we are working to establish a fee that is sustainable, feasible, and legally defensible. We've identified a rough budget, what we need to collect per year, and we are working on establishing an equivalent residential unit that is and Bolton and Mink is doing this work for the city as part of their contract. They're selecting a number of random parcels, finding parcel size, the impervious areas of those parcels, and finding that base unit for what a residential unit would be. And then larger parcels are then would be based on an X number of residential units that meet those requirements. That part, we're not really that far along with yet. So we are still developing what that max unit, max number of ERUs would be assigned to larger parcels, whatnot. So along with that, there'll also be a credit system. There's numerous facilities in town that have their own storm sewer treatment already, but they ultimately do outlet to the city system. So there would be some sort of credit system for those sites that do have their own on-site treatment and facilities. As the city of New Ulm has a municipal utility, the Public Utilities Commission, that collects fees for electric, natural gas, steam, wastewater, and water service. City staff believes it would be an efficient manner to include the proposed stormwater fee on the monthly PUC billing statements and have the finance department collect those fees on the city's behalf. We also believe moving forward in this fashion is the most equitable solution, as if these funds were put onto the property taxes, we miss some of those larger tax exempt parcels that do contribute with their large impervious surface on sites such as schools and churches of that, other facilities of that nature. We are actively soliciting public engagement on this process. We've sent out 2 mailings. The first one was in February, and the most recent was with the April bills. And we actually have an open house on this tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. right here in council chambers, just as an opportunity for the public to come ask questions and to give feedback on what we are proposing. We get it, it's a fee, not everybody's gonna necessarily be in favor of that, but it's something that we feel is necessary in order for us to keep up with the improvements to our storm sewer infrastructure. So finally, our anticipated schedule for final delivery of this is we're continuing to work with Bolton and Mink on finishing all those unanswered questions. What is the rate that we're looking at? Credit system establishment, finalizing that ERU max cap that we want to set, and then there'll be ordinance developments and final procedures that have to be developed as well. We are hoping roughly October, November, we would come back to the commission for another status update, and then moving forward to city council for final adoption. And ultimately this all depends on if the council chooses to move forward or not. So that's a quick summary. Again, we are pretty early in the process yet. We're still kind of soliciting that public input. There may be many questions I can't answer at this time, but I'll certainly open up to questions if there are any. Otherwise, I more so came before you today just to update the commission on what we're working on.
So I understand that the rate that a homeowner or business would see is kind of dependent on some future assessments, but do you have an idea of the overall budget that you
Sure.
anticipate collecting on an annual basis?
Roughly, it's not for certain yet, but we're looking at around $500,000 to $600,000.
Okay. Spread across New Ulm.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep. And in rough terms, we do have that residential unit kind of, we're thinking either somewhere between $4 to $6 per month for a single family home.
Okay.
Again, that's going to, there's going to be multipliers for larger commercial, industrial, multifamily home dwellings, but there's also that credit system for those facilities that do have something on sites as well. Or if they're served by a private pond, there's some subdivisions within New Ulm that have a pond, the city doesn't own it or maintain it, but it's privately owned. So there would be a credit system in some fashion for those facilities as well, but we're just not far enough to know what that credit looks like yet. So.
Okay. The other question I had, would this ultimately then end up on our rate schedule for the PUC, or would it be
It would be a city.
city rate schedule and
It'd be on the city rate schedule. Yeah.
we're just collecting
Yep.
and then transferring the money
Yeah.
from collections?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we have had brief discussions with finance, and so Nicole is kind of in the loop as we move forward on this. And there'll be more questions that we have and things we need to work through if we get that far, if council authorizes us to continue moving forward with that. That we'd have to figure out, how the bill's going to look like and things of that nature.
So when you determine the rates that we need to charge, like you said, maybe 4 to 6, it will be primarily a residential rate, single-family home, multifamily home.
Yep, and then depending
There'll
on.
be categories. It won't be based on your
Right.
property size, land size, that kind of thing.
For the commercial and industrial, it will, but we need to figure out what's that equitable max. So we don't want to have a parcel that's going to be charged, 40 times the single-family home, because we need to put a max on that as well. So we need to find well, council needs to ultimately
Yeah.
decide what that happy number is that they're comfortable with.
There's some industries that could stand 40 times a single residential
Sure.
home.
But, that's, again, we're not, it gets back to finding the equitable
Yep.
amount. We don't, again, we understand it's an additional fee, and those generally don't go over all that well, but that's why we're doing our due diligence to find that equitable number that we feel works for everybody.
Okay. All right.
The bigger commercial, the ones that will get the credits, all they have is ponds. They don't do any treatment of that water, right?
So, yeah, in essence, ponds are treatment because it allows sediment to filter out, but
They don't
I'll-
have any equipment that,
right, yeah, a lot of them, I'll use the Target pond for an example because they have maintained their own pond, so they have dredged it and cleaned it out and whatnot. So there is that expectation with private ponds that they still do their maintenance, and it has that capacity that it was originally constructed for. Again, with the city ponds, we have a number of them that were built, in that 20 to 30 years ago that need work done to them. And we run into issues when we bond for projects. We don't necessarily assess those improvements, so we need to find another revenue stream to make sure we can keep bonding for projects as well, because we have to assess a minimum 20% of those improvements when we bond, so.
but really the $4 to $6 roughly, if you pay it this way, somehow everybody is paying it, right?
Right, yeah.
They just don't know it. Or
Well,
don't
they
know
would see it as a line on the bill, but the reason for it being on the utility bill is in lieu of the tax roll is that everybody pays their fair share across the city, yep. And again, this is ultimately council's decision of how they want to move forward with it. But we're doing the legwork to present to them and let them make those decisions, so.
Right. Yeah, this is more of just a notification because it's going to show up on our bills.
It could, yes, yep.
And then I would say after, we go through the process, present them with a feasibility study, and we get towards that finalization, it will come back to the PUC just kind of as a recommending board, like, yes, we recommend kind of the route that's been selected, and tweaks like that before it goes back to council for their final decision.
Yeah, because we would want to bring that back so you know what kind of rates are being proposed to be added to the bill, so.
Right, because we're going to get the phone calls.
Director Manderfield's transfer button will get a good work.
Any other questions? All right, I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion to receive and order filed communications from the city engineer concerning the establishment of a city stormwater utility fee.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to receive and order filed communications from the city engineer concerning the establishment of a city stormwater utility fee. Any further discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Commission.
All right, so our next order of business is to discuss the wastewater treatment plant's earning of MPCA honors. Dan O'Connor to present. Or so says it on my sheet.
Right. Tooting our old horn, I guess. Good
I
evening,
could have tooted
Commissioners.
your horn, I suppose, instead.
Right. So if you read the overview, there is over 1,600 municipal and industrial MPCA permitted wastewater facilities in Minnesota, with about 248 or 15% achieving the recognition. So we're in the top 15% of the state. Really, it comes down to dedicated staff to keep things running and looking at budgets and looking at critical infrastructure and making sure that we're doing our due diligence to treat the water as efficiently as we can. A lot of it has to do with reporting. We have to send a DMR, discharge monitoring report in monthly. We have to send in annual reports as far as biosolids and pretreatment reports. We have to do some extra analysis of priority pollutants and toxicity annually. And for the most part, for many, many years, New Ulm has received this award. So,
Excellent. Congratulations.
thank you.
I'll make the motion to receive and order file the certificate of commendation from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for exceptional compliance during 2022.
Second?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to receive an order filed, the certificate of commendation from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for exceptional compliance during 2022. Any further discussion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now on to new business. So first order is Chris is going to talk to us about the purchase of an HX50A vacuum excavator.
Yes, this was a budgeted item, but because it was over $50,000, we're bringing it to you for approval. And it's, we're looking to purchase a new excavator in the amount of $105,574.35. We do have one or two of these. However, this is an item that is used almost daily. And it was getting to the point where it was causing project delays. We were trying to share it. And so the gas department has decided they'd like to purchase one on their own. So I think it's a good purchase.
And we discussed it during the budget process, so.
Yes, you did. It was brought up at budget.
Any questions? Or? No?
I'll make the motion to authorize the purchase of one new HX50A vacuum excavator with trailer from Charles Machine Works, Ditch Witch, Minnesota, in the amount of $105,574.35.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize the purchase of one new HX50A vacuum excavator with trailer from Charles Machine Works, Ditch Witch of Minnesota, in the amount of $105,574.35. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, our next order of business is Dan is going to talk to us about a New Ulm lift station cellular monitoring and battery replacement project, which is very familiar to something we just did.
Yeah, well, I think all the wells just got done for the water plant.
They did.
So we have lift stations around town, about a dozen, 12, 13 of them. Over the years, we've converted, I think, 3 of them. And the last couple that we put in, we went right to cellular. So the difference is between a radio and an antenna, which isn't very reliable, to a cellular modem in the control panel. So I don't know if it was mentioned in the budgetary issues, but I look back at our call-ins as far as after-hour call-ins so far this year, so through 3.5, 4 months of the year. 9 out of the 20 after-hour call-ins have been related to telemetry failures. So that means that the communication has failed. It doesn't mean the pumps have failed or that there's a high level, but when you lose the communication, you don't know what's happening at the lift station. So some of the things that interfere with the radios and the antennas are well, maybe sunspots. I don't know if that's true or not, but once the trees grow and they bloom their leaves and the trees get bigger, that antenna pole isn't quite tall enough to reach at the communication it needs to reach. And I think 12, 14 years ago, we had an attendance system that a lot of these lift stations would bounce off the power plant and then bounce out to us. And that all went away with one of our recent upgrade, well, 12, 15 years ago upgrade, where right now we have some of these that we're upgrading bouncing off a closer lift station or a lift station that's more reliable with the antenna system to get the communication to us. So the reason I guess we're here is it wasn't a budgeted item. We do have a sinking fund, an EPA sinking fund that we've been aggressively adding to at least the last 10 or 12 years I've been in the taking care of the budget. This year we put $300,000 into that sinking fund because we realized that, you know, $200,000-$300,000 today doesn't go very far. So this is a small drop in the bucket, $35,000 to upgrade 5 of them. That's going to take care of every lift station in town besides Center Street, which we're really hoping that that will be gone in the next 2 to 3, 5 years. That one is more reliable than a lot of the outlying ones. And then 20th Street, our main lift station, which is the closest lift station to the plant, is also very reliable, but we're also hopefully this fall doing an electrical upgrade over there. And I think we're going to, at that time, go to cellular data from that lift station as well. So within a couple of years, we won't have any radios and telemetry, radio and antenna type communications.
So just a couple quick questions. It says this current system has passed its useful life. Are we looking at a 20, 30-year-old radio-based system?
Well, you know, we're replacing radios probably 3, 4 a year. They're not that expensive, but then it's also a safety thing when sometimes it's an antenna issue and sometimes the antennas have to be adjusted. Heavy rain events, we'll get water in the antennas and in the pot of the antenna, and it's getting the street boom truck and going out and disassembling an antenna and sealing it back up. So there hasn't been a lot of expense, but I think the reliability of the cell phone data it's much better than antennas and radios.
Right. And we've witnessed that with other cell phone projects. So, okay. And have you, like, in your time, seen an increase in these issues, like over as it's reaching its kind of end of useful life here?
Yeah, it is, just because I talk about the spring and the trees budding and leafing. It's also, every year that tree also gets a foot taller or a foot wider, which causes interference as well.
I think we're we're anticipating that we would have more through the summer months because of the foliage on the trees. So while there were, you know, half of them in the spring, it could be significantly more in the summer.
And it's a nuisance alarm, right? I mean, for the most part, it's just a communication failure. Like I said, it's great that it's not a pump failure or something a little bit more serious, but it's also waking up employees at 1 in the morning and 3 in the morning and 5 in the morning and not that cellular data is you know, bulletproof, but the 4 lift stations that we have on cellular data now it's very rare to have an issue, and it's very short-lived. You know, it's a glitch in Verizon or whatever.
So the last thing I have, and if anyone else wants to add, feel free. There are a fair number of exclusions in the proposal. Are we going to be able to handle those in-house? Or, I mean, as far as bonding, permitting, removal, demolition, disposal of existing equipment, will that all be done in-house, or will there be another order coming in front of us?
Really, the demo would be the poles and the antennas.
Okay.
And that's something that either we have another utility department take care of for us, because they're, like the electric distribution group is doing that all the time, pulling posts out of the ground and going underground. So it shouldn't be a big expense.
Okay. So you're not understood there'll be expense of our own people as well, but you're not anticipating contracting another 10 grand to
No.
do all the exclusion stuff?
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So when these nuisance alarms happen, you still have to send in the staff has to go out and investigate the pump or not?
Well, we've learned over time that not necessarily. Back in the day when you carried the Motorola pager and it just said lift station alarm, you had to come in because you didn't know what it was. Now with the technology we have with our SCADA, you can see it's a telemetry failure and not a fatal pump failure. So most of these lift stations take care of 10, 12, 14 houses. So if it happens at 2 in the morning, you shouldn't have a lot of flow going into these lift stations. Or a lot of people aren't showering at 2 in the morning or doing their laundry, or normal people maybe anyway. And generally, if that lift station goes out at 2 in the morning, it's already maybe gone off at 2 in the afternoon and came back and then went out again at 4 p.m. And our protocol at work is especially over the weekend, if it's out, extended period of times, if you're the on-call guy, make sure when you're done with rounds at the plant Saturday or Sunday morning, drive by, bump the pumps, make sure you have power, so you don't get complacent and have something like that happen. So a lot of times it's just acknowledging the alarm and then potentially setting up a delay so it doesn't come back. You can set the delay on the alarms up to 2, 3, 4, 5, 24 hours if you'd like. But a lot of times what we'll do is if you get it at 1 in the morning, acknowledge it. We feel confident it's just a telemetry or a communication failure. Set the delay up so you can sleep until 5:30 in the morning. And get up and come to work, and then if it's still out, staff goes out and checks it out and, checks wires and replaces a radio potentially.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but on some of those too, if they're able to clear them at home, we still pay them. They get an hour call
Yeah.
for paying at time and a half. So there is,
Then this will save money.
it will, yes.
Yeah, we crunched some rough numbers last week when Chris called and asked about it, and a time and a half at the wages we're making, if you're getting 9 every quarter, so that's potentially 30, 40, 50 of these call-ins a year, that adds up to thousands of dollars in overtime over the year. And like I said, nuisance, 2 in the morning isn't the best time to be getting woken up for a nuisance type alarm.
And with wastewater, I would say there's a little bit of that if we do think it went wrong and it was just a nuisance alarm and we delayed it and it wasn't, and now all of a sudden we're backing up houses,
Yes.
it could be a much bigger issue.
It
So
could
we want an operating system.
And it could be, but like I said, I think everybody on our staff realizes that you can only let it go so long.
Right.
The middle of the night deals when you're just taking care of, 8, 10, 12 houses, with the depth of these lift stations and your whole collection system, it would have to be out for, I would think, days before people
Okay.
would even see anything. And that's never gonna happen. We're gonna have people checking it out
Okay.
if it's failed or not.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. So I'll take a motion.
Okay. I'll make the motion to authorize the city manager to accept the proposal from In Control Incorporated for the New Ulm Lift Station Cellular Monitoring and Battery Replacement Project in the amount of $32,352.
Second.
Thank
Right.
you.
So we have a motion and a second to authorize the city manager to accept the proposal from In Control Incorporated for the New Ulm Lift Station Cellular Monitoring and Battery Replacement Project in the amount of $32,352. Any additional questions or discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dan. All right, our next order of business is to discuss a minor change to the PUC schedule of fees and charges effective June 1st, 2023.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a clarifying change. What we wanted to do was add language that talked about having a second electrical service to your property. So in the past practice, we have not necessarily allowed a second electrical service. Typically, if somebody wants electricity to their garage, we'll put in a service, and then that's backfed to their garage. So there's only one meter at the property. Unless there's a hardship, or to either the property owner or the utility, we would then allow it, and it was at time and material. What we're seeing is with some homes, they're requiring larger services. So the choice that people are being given is they could put a 400 amp service in, or they could put 200 two 200 amp services in. And the latter is more desirable to do so. So that requires a second service and a second meter. What we wanted to do is just make it clear on the schedule of fees and charges that if that is the case, the cost would be for time and material. The original service is discounted for the cost that if we would put an overhead service in, that's what the cost would be. So it's at a discounted rate when you put in the first service, so the secondary service would be at time and material. So you can see on the schedule of fees and charges, we just added the word to it, additional on there, just to clarify that you can see the upgrade or reroutes were time and material. We just added additional to that fee schedule.
That is the definition of minor adjustment.
Yes, it is.
I'll make the motion to offer the resolution approving the 2023 PUC schedule of fees and charges to be effective June 1st, 2023.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to offer the resolution approving the 2023 PUC schedule of fees and charges to be effective June 1st, 2023. Any other discussion? All right, so we have to vote or call, right? Call the roll?
Commissioner Shaunis?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
And Commissioner Visser? Or, sorry, Finland.
Yes. The resolution passes. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Okay. So our next order of business is to discuss the IIJA grant funding opportunity through the Department of Energy. Chris?
Yeah, I wanted to bring this to you as an informational item and kind of let you know what we're doing and the process that we're going through. I did mention it just briefly at the last meeting in the director's report, but there's an opportunity. Obviously, there's a lot of money sitting out there in federal grants that are available. And through the Minnesota Department of Commerce, we were able to get on a cooperative agreement, which is basically with the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association, the Minnesota Rural Electrical Cooperative Association. It also encompasses the North Dakota Association, the South Dakota Association, and then also some cooperatives in Iowa. All of these trade groups have members that are applying for funding. And so what's happening is through Power Systems Engineering and Star Engineering, they're kind of heading this project, and the utilities are combining efforts to make a large project to the Department of Energy. So in this particular case, the Minnesota Department of Commerce has agreed to kind of gather all of these projects as one and bring that to the Department of Energy for us for IIJ funding. And so the entire package is about a $500 million package. And New Ulm, we have put in for 5 projects. I've got them listed on the agenda item. They all have unique components to them that make them qualify for this type of funding. So not just all funding, not just all projects can be funded by this. These have unique properties. And probably the most unique in the first 3 projects are the fact that the equipment that we're asking to be upgraded or replaced is equipment that allows New Ulm to become a microgrid. And what that means is if New Ulm was separated from Xcel or from the transmission grid, basically New Ulm could run as an island in most times of the year. There's probably a few days in the summer that it would be difficult, but on most days of the year that we could do that. And so that's what kind of makes these projects unique for New Ulm. So the first project is the replacement of a transformer. This is a 55-year-old transfer. It's a large transformer. And this thing is vital to deliver power from 2 25-megawatt combustion turbines that we have. Those particular combustion turbines are called on by MISO frequently to be run during peak energy times. And so it's critical that that transformer is operational and running. And so this, again, like I said, would be necessary for that microgrid as well as for any capacity shortages or grid support that we could give it. The second project is generator control updates on the two 25 megawatt combustion turbines that I just talked about. They were installed in 2001 and in 1975, and they have the original controls on them, many of which are not supported. And so this project would install a digital network controls and fiber, which again is critical to the support of MISO. The third project is some power plant upgrades. There are several upgrades that are necessary. These would this would include MCC replacements, transformer replacements, some switchgear replacements, and then distribution panel replacements. So this is important as this particular switchgear feeds the water treatment plant in New Ulm, and it also feeds our regional hospital. So it also would allow, or would continue to allow, black start capabilities, which is necessary in the microgrid process. The last two, Project 4 and Project 5. Project 4 is to upgrade the electromechanical relay replacements in the Southside substation. We want to replace these to newer microprocessor relays. This is going to allow SCADA to identify and operate the system as we get more solar and EV systems online. It will help with that. And then project number 5 is the RTU replacement in the power plant, North Side, South Side, and XL West substation. And these are, what we have right now is obsolete RTUs. This, again, has to do with the SCADA system. It's a requirement to continue to have those function. And they're really critical in the operation of our generation and distribution system. So at this point, New Ulm's total budgeted project costs are $8,365,720. There is a cost share, so the utility would be responsible for $4,317,860. And it's anticipated that we would secure bonding to do these projects. These are significant projects. The timeline for the project allows for year 2024. That's to be the design, engineering, and ordering of the equipment. Construction cannot start in the first year. So construction on the projects would start at different times throughout the 2025 and 2027 timeframe. And final completion needs to be completed on all projects by 2028. So right now, all the utilities are submitting their projects and budgets. Star Engineering and Power Systems Engineering is compiling all this information, preparing the documents that needed to be submitted to the Minnesota Department of Commerce, which will then review it, and then submission to the Department of Energy is anticipated to be the week of May 15th. And we're anticipating that a final selection by DOE will be sometime in the fall of 2023. This is a competitive grant program, so there will be other projects that will be going into this, will be submitted to the DOE. While we don't know what will happen, we feel pretty confident that this is a pretty comprehensive submittal based on the fact that it's multi-state. It's also municipals and cooperatives that are working together to ask for funds. So we're very hopeful that this will be recognized by the DOE. So all of the projects that are in this proposal are projects that were identified when we did a long-range capital improvement plan with PSE. So they're all necessary projects. They're all projects that we have on our long-range plan. Would ultimately have to try to fit them in somewhere in future years if we need to. So they're all necessary. And just as one last note, currently the electric fund, we talked about potential bonding. Bonding probably would happen, sometime in the years of 2025, 2026. We have arbitration we need to deal with, so there'd be some timing schedule there. But currently, the electric fund has one outstanding bond issue. That one will end December 1st of 2026. And then they also have an interdepartmental loan that will end on December 31st of 2027. So this piece will fit very nicely in the financial cash flow of the electric fund. So if you have any questions, I can try to help you, or Dan is here as well. He's been working quite a bit on this to get this ready for submission, so.
So my question is not necessarily around our side of it, it's kind of the grander side of it. So we're talking about being part of a group that submits $500 million worth of projects.
We are.
What if it comes back that we get 400 million? Is it a even distribution amongst those who, is it then prorated across all the projects that were then submitted as part of the 500, or do we see the Department of Energy saying, okay, we see your 500, but we're going to scratch this project, this project, this project, and they're going to tell us, and all of a sudden New Ulm's 3 out of the 5, or maybe we still get all 4.
Right.
Do you know how that
Our
works?
understanding of the project, and you sat in today on the meeting, but my understanding, so far, the understanding is that it's a all or nothing.
Oh,
So if we make it through the DOE application process, it would be we would be in.
wow, okay.
So
That's still
did
the way I
anything change on
understand
the
it.
call? Okay. We're having.
Things are changing, it's like they're learning as they're going some on
Yeah,
this, so it's
yeah.
an
But,
interesting process.
We've been involved in weekly calls with Star Energy and PSE, along with all of the other 50 utilities that are included in this process. So, yeah.
Wow, that's a risky under.
And then when I was up in DC about a month ago, we did bring it up to Senator Smith's attention that this was coming through. This style, they weren't aware that the Minnesota Department of Commerce was submitting an entire package, multi-state, multi-utility. So it is on their radar now that this is going to be coming through. So.
All right.
There has been a review, like a letter of intent to submit this package, that the DOE has seen like a opening statement, and they encouraged us to continue, or encouraged Star and PSC to continue. So it's not
have
totally
seen
a blind thing.
They have
It's-
seen a summary of what will
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
So it sounds like you're pretty confident that it's better to go together with all these other companies rather than just going ourselves?
In these particular funds, yes,
It just seems like that's a huge amount of money that we would get that would eliminate a lot of other.
The DOE wants big projects, big funding. They don't want, it sounds big to us, but they don't even want our little $8 million project.
Okay.
Yeah.
They want it to be hundreds of $1 millions, because the DOE is going to give the state a big block of money, and then the state's going to manage it to get it out to all these other entities.
So, some of the projects are transmission projects that are, multi-million-dollar, projects as well. So this may be, one of the only opportunities for the utility to get funding of this magnitude.
Oh, that's good.
I'll make the motion to receive and order file the report regarding IIJA funding opportunity from the Department of Energy through the Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnership.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to receive and order filed the report regarding IIJA funding opportunity from the Department of Energy through the Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnership, GRIP, also known as GRIP. Any further discussions? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So now Derek is going to talk to us about the New Ulm Public Utility Clear Energy Solutions Renewable Energy Credit Program. It's a long word.
It is. All right, good evening, Commissioners. As you are probably aware, a portion of our energy portfolio is already renewable energy. That's roughly about 25% that we get through Heartland Energy from their Westington Springs wind farm in South Dakota. And so what we're proposing is a voluntary program that will be eligible to our customers who want to support renewable energy. The program, which you stated, Clean Energy Solutions, allows individuals to purchase renewable energy credits if the customer is not able to or willing to actually purchase the physical solar panels or any other type of distributed energy resource. So what they'd be purchasing as energy is the REC, the Renewable Energy Credit, which is defined as a tradable certificate that supports renewable energy development and reduces overall carbon footprint. So each megawatt of a renewable energy credit is assigned a unique number, that REC, that certificate, to make sure that it is tracked and only counted once. Minnesota uses the MRET system to track the renewable energy generation used through these certificates. MRET, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is also overseen by MISO, Mid-Continent Independent System Operator as well, who's overseen by FERC. So it's very legitimate and it's very tracked extensively. So one certificate represents 1 megawatt of renewable energy that is added to the electric grid. Clean Energy Solutions would allow customers the chance to help support and supply renewable energy to their home or business without the upfront cost of installing solar or other DER. This program would be available for all customers in the city, residential, commercial, and industrial, starting June 1st. If approved, that is, because if you notice on another portion of the primary issues, alternatives to consider, it'd be considered a rate change, so that's why it needs to go to the public for 30 days for that. So, you know, a customer would still be paying for the electric that they'd be using. This would be an adder onto the bill saying that I want to, you know, support renewable energy through what would be the Westington Springs wind farm. I kind of have a program overview on the residential and the commercial. The industrial, it gets more complicated. There's much more technical, you know, corporates out of state that get involved. It's more of a contract if they're interested in that. But on the residential side and the business side, there's that 25% that we already offer our customers. So really, if a customer would elect for wanting 50% of their usage, 75 or 100, they're actually for paying $1 for wanting to have electricity, you know, 50%, they're actually paying for that additional 25. If they're paying for the 75% of their usage, they're paying actually for 50% because they're already getting 25%. So what we've come up with for the residential side would be $1 for 50% of their usage, $2 for 75%, and $3 for 100%, and that's per month. So the max for 100% is $36 for them. Residential is pretty much exactly the same, except for since their usage is much more, and to make it equal, theirs would be based on kWh, so 0.001 cent per kWh. And this isn't total, it's an opt-in, opt-out program that somebody could opt in 1 year and opt out of the next. And so what would happen is if they would opt in, we as a utility would get that energy for them and the renewable energy credit. And then we would be able to retire that renewable energy credit. And on the back, I kind of just gave a summary of usage and dollar amounts of what it may cost a commercial customer that would have a total kilowatt hours for the whole year. In this case, I used 2 million kilowatt hours per year. And kind of just took off that 25% because they already get that. So what they'd be if they elected and opt in for this, the remaining that they would consider would be that 1.5 million kWh. And from there, if it would be 50%, 75%, or 100%. with the cost of 0.001 cent.
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, so first question is a theoretical.
Yep.
So theoretical, everybody signs up for the 50%. Is that now the expectation that Heartland will provide 50% of our power as from renewable energy sources?
We're already getting our 25%.
Yep.
So this would be separate from that. And they have enough there that they could supply that. But if for some reason there's not, that's where you can go into the market and buy the additional renewable energy credits, because they are tradable.
So that's kind of the expectation of what would happen then. So take it to the next level. Say the entire community and all businesses sign up for 100%.
So-
Does that mean we are now purchasing 100% of our energy from renewable sources?
That means that we would be purchasing RECs so, RECs and energy are two separate things, okay? So the energy that we get from Heartland is 25% renewable. When you're buying a REC, and so the Westinghouse, or the Westington Springs wind farm has available RECs based on for 1 megawatt of energy that they produce, there's 1 REC that is produced, okay? So with their resources, we could provide the majority of the RECs that we need. The energy is, we're still buying the same energy because you can't track a clean or a renewable wind electron to your house, okay? So the energy that you're still getting is the same energy. It's just that when you're buying RECs, that's saying, because I bought this REC, there's 1 renewable electron going into the grid, okay? So there are enough RECs available if New Ulm chose to be 100% renewable.
Okay.
There's enough RECs to be able to be purchased to do that.
Okay. So the money itself goes to purchase the RECs,
Yes.
Correct.
which then, even though we're getting the same energy, basically pushes out that more energy is being renewables being purchased.
Yes.
Okay. I think I get it.
It's really a very affordable way, I think, for customers that, want to, they want renewable energy. They want to promote renewable energy. When you're looking at a $3 a month to be 100%, renewable, that's pretty affordable. I mean, even for our business class customers as well.
So the concept then is, as more people and more communities do this, then there's more money to fund additional
Yes.
renewable sources
Yes. So
and retire non-renewable.
Yeah, right. So, in different states, so for example, in different states, they may not have a renewable requirement. Minnesota is looking to go to be 100% carbon-free by 2040. That's how some of these utilities are going to end up getting that way, because not everyone's going to be able to build solar or wind, or they don't have hydro. And so you can't build enough renewable in Minnesota to supply everybody with 100% renewable energy. So the REC program basically that's what it does. It incentivizes renewable energy by separating out the energy from the REC, and it gets more stuff built.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make the motion to approve the New Ulm Public Utilities Clean Energy Solutions Renewable Energy Credit REC program available to all customers effective June 1st, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the New Ulm Public Utilities Clear Energy Solutions Renewable Energy Credit, the REC program, available to all customers effective June 1st, 2023. Any further discussion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Derek again. Our next order of business is to talk about the Tom Bovitz Memorial Scholarship Essay recipient.
Yes, so this is to wrap up the Tom Bovitz local scholarship that you all voted on many meetings ago. So we received 2 local scholarship essays, and each essay was sent individually to you commissioners without names or any other sensitive data, and for you to vote on. And the selected essay for 2013 was written by Benjamin Honstein from New Ulm Public High School, and his essay was submitted to MMUA, so it will now have a chance to win one of their 4 scholarships that range from $500 to $2,000. So if I hear anything regarding that, or if he's one of the select entries of theirs, I will come and present that to you. And he has been notified. I called him and sent him a letter, so he is aware of that. And I told him that I will get his scholarship to him as soon as we vote on it tonight. So he's looking forward to it.
Any questions about that? Motion then?
I'll make the motion to approve the Tom Bovitz Memorial Scholarship Essay by Benjamin Hohensee to receive the NUPU local scholarship in the amount of $500.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Tom Bovitz Memorial Scholarship Essay by Benjamin Hohensee to receive the New Ulm Public Utility Local Scholarship in the amount of $500. Any further discussion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Nice job, Ben. Still with Derek.
With me, I feel like Dan. I feel like you some meetings.
We're going to talk about the 20th anniversary events.
Yeah. So as you're aware, it's the utility's 120th anniversary. We just kind of started with the last newsletter. Kind of had some first things in it. Beginning of last year, we decided to begin a kind of planning committee, and what we decided on for the 120th was to have lots of mini events, I guess you can say. And those already started with having kind of in our bi-monthly newsletter, having articles about the utility's past with older pictures and the history of a specific building or one of the specific utilities. And with that, we kind of have a little Q&A at the bottom, so people can either email or submit a slip. As long as they read the article, they can submit an answer to the one or two questions that we may have associated with the article for a gift. And so this next newsletter that we're preparing is going to have a list of the winners. So we select 5 winners that are going to get a gift for this first article, and that will happen until the end of the year. We'll have an article with some questions that they can submit an answer to and give out some prizes. And then at the end of the year, anybody that's actually submitted an answer is going to be all pulled together for some much larger gift or prize at the end of the year. So that's kind of our first event that we're doing within the newsletter. The second thing would be our first in-person event, which is planned for June 22nd at in German Park, and we're sponsoring a movie, and the event is called Movie in German Park, and it would include 1919 root beer and popcorn that we're going to supply, along with the movie that we've purchased and a big screen that we're renting. We're also invited 3 local food truck vendors that are going to be there. They'll come a little bit earlier, and they'll probably be there till, they can leave whenever they'd like, but probably close to when the movie starts, about 8:30. And the movie that we are going to be showing that we purchased is Lyle Crocodile. So I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's good or not. But if
Is there
we're-
much debate that went into that movie selection?
No, we had a meeting, and I called my son, and I asked him. I gave him 3 options, and that's the one he chose. And then other coworker called his daughter, and she said the same thing. So we kind of were. The
Excellent.
other option was ET. So that.
Makes sense why your children
Sure.
chose Lala Crocodile.
Yeah. But we just want to remind people to bring water. You know, we're supplying 1918 root beer, popcorn. There'll be food vendors, but, you know, bring water, blankets, chairs, things like that, because it's in the park. So. And then lastly, we are going to hold a vehicle and kind of machinery fair, and, you know, specialized equipment besides just the vehicles that we use, that families in the community come and check out. And that will be sometime in September. That's not set in stone of a date and time yet, but yeah. And we're also going to have some giveaways for the movie also. That's kind of first come, first serve. So
Excellent. And all within budget?
it's all
Within the-
coming for stuff that we already had budgeted. Yep, you bet.
Perfect. All right, any other questions?
To approve the 120th anniversary events, which include sponsorship of a movie in German Park, vehicle and machinery fair, and prizes for Q&A from newsletter articles.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the 120th anniversary events, which include sponsorship of a movie in German Park, vehicle and machinery fair, and prizes from Q&A from newsletter articles. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain, pardon me. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next up, Dan's going to talk to us about our annual electric system reliability standards and performance. Safety, Sadie, Katie.
Yep, it's back
You're in
again
for a
this
treat,
year.
Kim. This is a fun one.
Yep, it's that time of year again. Well, as some of you know, we do this every year. Like you said, it's annual. And basically, just some quick definitions here. Simplest, what does electric system reliability mean? Simply, is the power where it's supposed to be when it's needed. We use, this is just some benchmarking, how we're doing. We now subscribe to APPA's E-Relia Tracker, which does it for nationally and also regionally, and it gives us a real nice report that was attached that shows how we compare to other people, both geographically and size-wise. And three major indices that we'll look at is SAFE, which is the frequency of your interruptions for the system. It's divided by the number of customers. System average, SAIDI is the system average interruption duration, so how long was your power out over the number of customers. And KD is the sum of the outage durations divided by the number of interruptions.
Dan, are you expecting that the PowerPoint will be moving?
Yeah, it's supposed to be. It's moving on mine here. Let's see what I'm doing wrong.
There we go.
Okay, are we all right if we just catch up to where I'm at?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, so SAFE is the first one we'll look at. We had another really good year. Again, from the E-Relia Tracker, Region 3, which is the Midwest, and customers of our size. We did way better than average. And then I have 4 historical years of data there. And then we compare ourselves to some IOUs. I could not find Excels this year, but Otter Tail Power were significantly better than our IOU friends. This is just a graphed representation of that. The red line here is Region 3. I need to get a label on that, I see. But again, New Ulm is kind of like a golf, a nice low score, and that's where we want to stay, preferably. Okay, now we got Sadie. So here we're still doing really good. Way above average for the region. And generally, New Ulm's always pretty good. Usually, if you have a bad year, it's a weather event that we had something significant happen in that year. And again, we're significantly better than the IOUs, and we couldn't find Excels. Again, nice low score. Come on. Now Katie, again, we're doing good, not quite as, beating them not quite as much as we do in the other categories, but still doing very good. And actually Otter Tail beat us by just a little bit on that one. So we're sitting there all together. But again, very good score. Then we got events. And usually I do the 4 worst events, and if you notice, after we have about 4, it gets to be so small, so few customers, it's hard to even talk about. And most of these are tied to weather, like an outage on June 6th was due to lightning. Took out a lightning arrestor. 90 customers were out for 210 minutes, so almost 4 hours. July 5th, we had an equipment failure. 932 customers, but it was only for a little bit more than an hour. And that was a whole feeder that was out there. That's why the customer number is so high. Again, July 2nd, and I put these in by the length of their outages. That's why we're not chronological. Oops, sorry. Again, lightning. Again, weather related. And just for a little variety, on September 6th, a bird decided to take out a fuse. Again, it seems like every couple of years we have some sort of wildlife related outage. Some keys to keeping our numbers so good. Cable replacement, keeping trees for our overhead stuff trimmed. That's winter work for the linemen typically. Pole testing for our wood poles to make sure that they're still in good shape, not rotting inside or anything like that. And 5-year testing of breakers, switches, and relays to make sure everything is in good working order. Some other keys to reliability. These were our projects that we were scheduled to do in the last year. Replacement of the north side substation relays, which is done. Center Street substation bypass, the contract signed. Lead times are just driving why some of these aren't done was actually lead times. That's going to be an ongoing story here. Corrective action plan to replace 69 breakers in the Center Street stub. Well, we just received the breakers actually this week. So now we can go ahead and do that project, but it'll probably be in fall because that's something we have to do when our loads are down a little bit. And then RTU upgrade for both Center Street and Fort Ridgely substations. We just finished those within the last couple of weeks. So seems like everything's taken a little longer than we have planned. Now, as you look at the future projects we're talking about, it looks eerily similar to what we just talked about in the IIJA funding. Replacement of south side substation relays, that's those electrical mechanicals Chris talked about. Center Street substation transformer upgrade. That's a 60-year-old transformer we need to part with. Power plant switchgear, substation switchgear upgrade. Well, in the power plant, there is some switchgear that Chris talked about that has some critical infrastructure that's more than 60 years old, so that is due for an upgrade, and that allows us to not have to replace those relays. We'll just do it all when we do the whole switchgear. And then RTUs, we have left to do our north side substation, the power plant, and south side substation, and XL West substation. So our system is completely talking to itself as it should be. A few more key items that you can think about. Plan, maintenance, or replacement, that's what a lot of those projects are. 20-year plans which identify projects like the ones we just talked about. Built-in redundancy, a lot of our systems are set up to back up itself at least twice, 2 different ways, I mean. Underground allows it, lightning doesn't bother underground components and some other things like that. And all these SCADA upgrades is allowing us to react quicker, get the system back up, and take appropriate restoration steps. We're always sending people to training. Like I say, we have backups and everything, and then our power plant generation with Black Start allows us to get up and going yet again. Conclusions. We're about a third of everybody else for the SAFE. We're about 14% of the average for SADE. We're very reliable when to other utilities and especially compared to IOUs. And I don't know if you read in the action item, but we did just get our service award again this year for the, I think, 4th or 5th year running for reliability from American Public Power. And this is just revisiting those items again. Questions? Sorry, I was reading the last slide. Any questions? Anything I can clear up?
When you're comparing to Otter Tail Power, is that primarily like the city of Fergus Falls and stuff, or is that rural too?
All the IOUs have to come up with their SAFE and KD for their whole system. So that'd be Otter Tail Power's complete network. They publish what they did. So that whole area in, what is it, about the northwestern third of Minnesota, would be that whole area. But they can have a storm and it'll affect some of their customers, where if a storm hits us perfectly, it affects all of our customers. And that's why you'll see on certain years we'll have one real bad spike, and then we'll go for years without. It's just the luck of when we get hit by a major event. Any other questions or anything I can help with?
No, numbers look good. Continue to look good.
I'll make the motion to receive and order file the report regarding New Ulm Electric System Reliability Standards and Performance for 2022 and acknowledgement of the 2022 Certificate of Excellence in Reliability from the American Public Power Association.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to receive and order filed the report regarding New Ulm's electric system reliability standards and performance for 2022 and acknowledgement of the 2022 Certificate of Excellence in Reliability from the American Public Power Association. Any further discussion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So our last order before we go to addendum is to make a motion on the report of claims.
I'll make the motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $2,988,845.81.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $2,988,845.81. Any further discussion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So now, can I have a motion to suspend the rule and proceed with the addendum?
I'll make the motion to suspend the rules and proceed with the addendum.
Second.
All right, so we got a motion and a second to suspend the rule and proceed with the addendum. So, our addendum item is discussion about our contract with Western Area Power Administration, WAPA, Renewable Energy Credits. And Chris is going to discuss.
Yes, Commissioners. So the New Ulm Public Utilities receives about 2.5 megawatt hours of hydro throughout the year with our allocation and with WAPA, which is the Western Area Power Administration. WAPA has implemented a new renewable energy credit program. And so with that program, the New Ulm Public Utilities is eligible to receive those RECs and accordance to the program principles. So this contract basically is designating Heartland Energy to manage those RECs on our behalf. They are already managing the other ones that we have, so it makes sense for them to do that. So Heartland will retire the RECs in New Ulm's name, and they'll be retired through the MREP system, which acknowledges and tracks the Minnesota RECs. So this is just to offer the resolution and authorize the city manager to sign the contract, which designates Heartland as our designee.
Any discussion? Okay. I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make the motion to offer the resolution and authorize the city manager to sign the contract with Western Area Power Administration to designate Heartland Energy to manage the renewable energy certificates for New Ulm Public Utilities.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to offer the resolution and authorize the city manager to sign the contract with Western Area Power Administration, WAPA, to designate Heartland Energy to manage the renewable energy certificates, RECs, for the New Ulm Public Utilities. Is there any further discussion? Nicole, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, just a second. Commissioner Shaunis,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fingland.
Yes. All right, the resolution carries, passes. All right, is there any further business? Then with that, meeting is adjourned.